The alarm blared across the medical bay of the Galactic Emergency Response vessel Mendax, as Dr. Zrixl rushed to prepare for the incoming patient. His translucent blue skin flushed darker with stress as 6 slender arms moved in perfect coordination, activating diagnostic equipment and laying out specialized tools designed to handle nearly any medical crisis in the known universe. "Status report," he barked at his assistant doctor. Thula, who was frantically checking the ship's communication feed. "Victim exposed to open flame during an engineering malfunction on the human trade vessel," Thula replied, her voice tight with concern. Her eye stalks swiveled independently, monitoring multiple screens at once. "Preliminary data suggests third-degree burns covering approximately 20% of the body. The human refused stasis transport." Dr. Zrixl froze, all 6 hands suspended mid-motion. "The human refused stasis after fire exposure. That's suicide." The medical team of the Mendax had treated countless species across 12 galaxies, but humans were relatively new to interstellar travel and trade. The Galactic Medical Authority had limited data on human physiology beyond basic anatomical scans and rudimentary health protocols. What they did know was that humans were carbon-based life forms with a concerning amount of water in their composition. And like most organic beings, they were highly susceptible to thermal damage. Fire was universally feared among space-faring species. Even the heat-tolerant Volucrians of the magma planet Thermus feared direct flame exposure. Fire didn't just kill, it destroyed the very structure of living tissue, making revival or regeneration impossible. "The human is conscious and communicating," Thula added, her voice edged with disbelief. "He's requesting minimal intervention and claiming it's not that bad." Dr. Zrixl's respiratory membranes fluttered in agitation. "Not that bad? Is the human delirious from pain? Fire victims don't survive without immediate intensive care." The medical bay doors slid open with a pneumatic hiss. 2 Nardak paramedics, their muscular bodies designed for emergency transport, guided a human male into the room. Dr. Zrixl braced himself for the horrific sight of charred flesh and exposed bone. Instead, a human walked in, grimacing but standing independently. The right side of his body showed angry red burns, with blistering across his arm and part of his torso where his protective suit had failed. The burns were severe, yet the human was conscious, alert, and moving under his own power. "Victor Davies," the human said through gritted teeth. "Engineer on the trade ship Artemis. Thanks for taking me in." Dr. Zrixl stared in astonishment. According to everything he knew about thermal injuries, this human should be incapacitated, likely on the brink of death, not introducing himself. "Get him onto the examination platform, Doctor," Zrixl ordered, finding his professional demeanor again. "Full bioscan immediately." As the paramedics helped Victor onto the medical platform, Dr. Thula approached with a pain management device. "On a scale from 1 to 10, how would you rate your pain?" she asked, following standard protocol. "About an 8, Victor replied, his face tense but voice steady. "Had worse." Dr. Zrixl's eye stalks snapped toward the human in disbelief. "Worse than third-degree burns? What kind of resilient species was this?" The bioscan completed with a soft chime, projecting Victor's physiology into the air above him. Dr. Zrixl analyzed the results, his confusion deepening. The burns were indeed severe, with significant damage to the epidermal and dermal layers, yet the human's vital signs remained relatively stable. "You're experiencing extensive thermal damage to approximately 22% of your body," Dr. Zrixl explained, wondering if the human comprehended the severity. We need to place you in stasis immediately to prevent cellular degradation and systemic shock. Victor winced as he shifted position. No stasis. We don't do well with that. Just clean it, patch me up, and give me some pain meds. I'll heal. Dr. Thula's tentacles twitched nervously. Sir, with all due respect, these are third-degree burns. Without immediate intervention, you risk infection, permanent tissue damage, and potential organ failure. I understand, Victor said, the pain evident in his voice despite his calm demeanor. But humans can heal from burns. Our bodies repair the damage over time. Doctor. Zrixl couldn't believe what he was hearing. No species he knew could simply repair thermal damage of this magnitude without technological intervention. The very molecular structure of living tissue was altered by fire. It didn't simply fix itself. Impossible, Dr. Zrixl stated flatly. Organic tissue cannot regenerate after thermal destruction without significant medical intervention or natural evolutionary adaptations for extreme environments. Victor gave a strained smile. Well, Doc, humans are full of surprises. We evolved on a planet with fire. Been dealing with it for thousands of years. While they debated, Dr. Zrixl noticed something extraordinary on the continuous bioscan. The human cells at the edges of the burned areas were already showing signs of preliminary healing response. Inflammatory markers were elevated, and there appeared to be early immune activity at the wound sites. Dr. Thula, look at this, he said, pointing at the scan with 3 of his hands while the other 3 prepared wound cleansing solutions. The human cellular structure is actively responding to the damage. Dr. Thula examined the scan, her scientific curiosity overriding her concern. Fascinating. It appears to be some form of organized inflammatory response, but much more robust than anything I've seen in other carbon-based species. Victor grimaced as a wave of pain hit him. Look, I don't mean to be rude, but could we move this along? This really does hurt, Doctor. Zrixl snapped back to his medical duties. Yes, of course. We'll proceed with wound cleaning and pain management, but I must insist we monitor you for at least 1 full rotation. Burns of this severity typically lead to systemic shock in most species. As they began treating Victor's burns, applying specialized cooling gels and antimicrobial barriers, Dr. Zrixl continued to observe the human's unusual physiological responses. The medical team worked efficiently, but their normal procedures for thermal injuries seemed almost excessive for this resilient human. Our ship doesn't encounter many humans, Dr. Zrixl admitted as he carefully treated a particularly severe burn on Victor's forearm. The Galactic Medical Authority has limited data on your species' response to injuries. Victor nodded, gritting his teeth as the treatment stung. We're relatively new to interstellar travel, only been out here about 30 Earth years. That explains the knowledge gap, Doctor. Thula said, monitoring Victor's vital signs. Most species don't venture beyond their solar systems until they've developed advanced medical technology to address injuries and illnesses common to space travel. Humans tend to leap before we look, Victor replied with a weak chuckle that turned into a wince. We figure things out as we go. Dr. Zrixl completed the initial treatment, applying specialized medical patches that would protect the burned tissue while facilitating healing. These should help with the pain. We typically use these for minor thermal injuries, but given your unusual resilience, they might be sufficient. Thanks, Doc, Victor said, relief visible on his face as the pain medication began to take effect. How long until I can get back to my ship, Doctor? Zrixl's 4 eye stalks blinked in synchronized surprise. Back to your ship. You've experienced severe thermal trauma, Most species would require weeks of intensive care, followed by months of rehabilitation. Humans heal pretty quickly from burns, Victor explained. Maybe a week or two for these if they're kept clean and bandaged properly. The blisters will break, new skin will form. It's painful but not usually fatal unless it covers too much of the body or gets infected. The concept of natural recovery from severe burns without technological intervention was so foreign to Dr. Zrixl that he struggled to accept it. In his experience, fire was one of the universe's great equalizers, a force that few biological organisms could withstand or recover from. "I would like to document your recovery process," Dr. Zrixl said, his scientific curiosity piqued. "With your permission, of course. This could significantly expand our understanding of human physiology and potentially benefit future human patients." Victor nodded. "Sure, as long as I can communicate with my ship. They'll need to know I'm okay." Dr. Thula arranged a communication link to the Artemis, while Dr. Zrixl prepared a specialized monitoring suite for Victor. Over the next 3 days, the medical team observed with increasing amazement as Victor's body began the natural healing process. By the morning of the 4th day, the smallest burns were already showing significant improvement. The damaged skin had begun to slough off, revealing tender but healing tissue beneath. Victor was in pain but managed it well with medication, and his overall condition remained stable. "This is unprecedented, Doctor," Zrixl said during a staff meeting, displaying the progression scans of Victor's burns. "The human's natural healing mechanisms are addressing thermal damage that would be fatal or permanently disfiguring to most species." Dr. Thula, who had become particularly interested in human medicine, added, "I've been researching their medical literature. Humans have developed specialized treatment centers just for burn victims. They've been treating thermal injuries for centuries without our level of technology." Dr. Zrixl found this difficult to comprehend. But fire fundamentally alters organic material at the molecular level. How can their bodies simply reverse that? "They don't exactly reverse it," Dr. Thula explained. "The damaged tissue dies and is replaced by new cell growth. Their bodies contain specialized cells called stem cells that can differentiate into various tissue types as needed." The medical team's fascination with Victor's recovery grew daily. Other staff members from the Mendax found excuses to visit the medical bay, curious about the resilient human who was surviving what they all considered a fatal injury. By the end of the first week, Victor was moving around the medical bay, his pain significantly reduced. The bandages were changed regularly, revealing healing skin underneath. The process was slow but undeniable. His body was repairing itself. Most burn victims on Earth would be in a specialized hospital, Victor explained during a particularly thorough examination. "But we've been healing from burns since we discovered fire. It's one of the first injuries our ancestors had to learn to treat." "Your ancestors deliberately used fire?" Dr. Zrixl asked, shocked at the concept. Victor looked surprised by the question. "Of course. We cooked with it, heated our homes, used it to craft tools. Fire is one of humanity's first and most important technologies." This revelation stunned the medical team. Most species in the galaxy had evolved to avoid fire at all costs, developing technologies that bypass the need for open flame entirely. The idea of a species that deliberately cultivated fire, despite its dangers, was fascinating. "That explains your evolutionary adaptations," Dr. Thula mused. "Your species developed physiological responses to an environmental hazard you refused to avoid." Victor shrugged, then winced as the movement pulled at his healing burns. "I never thought of it that way, but I guess you're right. Humans have always been willing to take risks with dangerous things if they're useful enough. As the second week began, Victor's recovery continued to progress. The most severe burns were still painful and would clearly leave scars, but the risk of infection had passed, and new skin was forming rapidly. Dr. Zrixl documented every stage of the healing process, compiling what would become the most comprehensive medical study of human burn recovery in the Galactic Medical Authority's records. Your healing capacity is truly remarkable, Dr. Zrixl told Victor during a routine checkup. It challenges our fundamental understanding of thermal injuries. Victor, who had grown accustomed to the alien doctor's fascination, smiled. Wait until you see how we heal broken bones. Dr. Zrixl's eye stalks quivered with interest. You can recover from skeletal fractures as well. Absolutely, Victor confirmed. The bone knits itself back together over time. Usually takes a few weeks to a couple of months, depending on the break and the person's age. This casual revelation sent another wave of excitement through the medical team. Many species could recover from minor fractures, but the casual way Victor described it suggested a level of resilience that was uncommon in the galaxy. On the 10th day of Victor's stay, the Artemis docked with the Mendax for a supply transfer. Captain Alina Martinez came to visit her injured engineer, accompanied by the ship's medical officer, Dr. Bryant. "You're looking much better than I expected," Captain Martinez said, examining Victor's healing burns with an experienced eye. Dr. Bryant was concerned we might need to arrange a stasis transport back to Earth. "These alien doctors know their stuff," Victor replied, "though I think I've become more of a research subject than a patient at this point." Dr. Bryant, who had been reviewing Victor's medical file with Dr. Zrixl, approached the bed. "These treatment protocols are impressive. Some of these medications might be useful for our medical bay." "We would be pleased to share our knowledge," Dr. Zrixl offered, "in exchange for more information about human healing processes. Your species' resilience to thermal injuries could lead to advancements for other carbon-based life forms." Captain Martinez nodded. "I think we can arrange that. The Earth Medical Association would be interested in exchanging medical knowledge." The meeting evolved into an impromptu medical conference, with Dr. Bryant explaining human burn treatment protocols, while Dr. Zrixl and his team shared their advanced healing technologies. Both sides were fascinated by the other's approaches, finding unexpected commonalities and differences. "Your species treats burns so routinely," Dr. Thula observed. "Our protocols are designed for emergency stabilization followed by stasis until specialized facilities can be reached. Humans can't tolerate long-term stasis yet," Dr. Bryant explained. "We had to develop treatments that work while the patient remains conscious and active. Hence our focus on pain management and infection prevention rather than suspended healing." 2 days later, Victor was deemed well enough to return to the Artemis with strict instructions for continued care. His burns were healing well, with new pink skin visible on many of the affected areas. The deeper burns would take more time and would leave scars, but the outcome was far better than Dr. Zrixl had initially feared. "I cannot thank you enough for documenting my case," Victor said as he prepared to leave the medical bay. "If it helps other patients in the future, the pain was worth it." Dr. Zrixl extended 3 of his hands in the traditional medical farewell of his species. "Your resilience has changed our understanding of thermal injuries. We will update the Galactic Medical Authority's protocols for human patients immediately." As Victor departed, Dr. Zrixl returned to his office to compile his findings. The data was extraordinary. It would revolutionize emergency protocols for human patients across the galaxy. But beyond the practical applications, it represented something more profound. A reminder that life in the universe had evolved countless different solutions to survival, some of which seemed impossible until witnessed firsthand. 3 months later, the Mendax responded to another emergency call. A multi-species mining operation had experienced an explosion, resulting in numerous injuries, including thermal burns. Among the patients was a Terraform Corporation supervisor named Lana Wilson, a human female who had been caught in the blast. Like Victor before her, Lana's burns were severe but not immediately life-threatening by human standards. Unlike the previous encounter, however, Dr. Zrixl and his team were now prepared, initiating human-specific burn protocols. Dr. Zrixl announced as Lana was brought into the medical bay. Prepare cooling treatments, infection barriers, and pain management appropriate for human physiology. Lana, despite her pain, looked surprised at the confident treatment plan. You've treated humans before. Yes, Dr. Zrixl replied, his movements efficient and precise as he assessed her injuries. We've developed specialized protocols based on your species' remarkable healing abilities. You're going to recover well. The implementation of the new protocols, developed from Victor's case study, proved immediately effective. Lana's treatment was better targeted to human physiology, resulting in reduced pain and optimized healing conditions. What had been a shocking anomaly just months ago was now an established medical procedure. Word of the Mendax's expertise with human patients spread quickly among the interstellar trading community. Within a year, the medical vessel had treated dozens of human patients and had been commissioned by the Galactic Medical Authority to train other emergency response teams in human-specific care. Dr. Zrixl even arranged an exchange program with Earth's leading burn treatment centers, spending 3 Earth months observing human doctors treating their own kind. The experience further refined his understanding and led to several collaborative research papers on cross-species emergency medicine. 5 years after Victor's initial treatment, the Mendax responded to a distress call from a research outpost on the volcanic moon of Ignales. A sudden eruption had caused widespread injuries among the multi-species scientific team stationed there. Among the injured was a familiar face, Victor Davies, now a senior engineer specializing in extreme environment adaptations. He had suffered minor burns while helping evacuate his colleagues from the research facility. We meet again, Dr. Zrixl, Victor said, recognizing the alien physician immediately despite the years that had passed. Different moon, same old burns. Dr. Zrixl's skin flushed with pleasure at seeing his former patient, Engineer Davies. I see you haven't lost your affinity for fire. Victor laughed, then winced as it pulled at his fresh burns. Some habits die hard, but I hear you're the best in the galaxy at treating humans now. Thanks to you, Dr. Zrixl replied, examining Victor's new injuries with practiced ease. Your case changed everything about how we approach thermal injuries in humans. Look around you. Victor glanced around the medical bay, noticing for the first time that there were several other humans being treated alongside various alien species. Each was receiving specialized care tailored to their physiology. One particularly notable feature was a dedicated human burn treatment station, equipped with supplies and medications specifically designed for Earth physiology. You've come a long way since looking at me like I was a medical miracle for not dying, Victor observed. Dr. Zrixl's eye stalks dipped in acknowledgement. The greatest advancements in medicine often come from unexpected sources. Your species' relationship with fire, using a deadly hazard as a tool, despite its dangers, represents a different evolutionary path than most space-faring civilizations. As Dr. Zrixl treated Victor's new burns with practiced efficiency. They discussed how the medical exchange between humans and the galactic community had progressed. Humans had gained access to advanced pain management techniques and specialized healing compounds, while alien physicians had learned from humanity's long experience with trauma medicine and natural healing processes. The Galactic Medical Authority has officially classified humans as thermal resilient, Dr. Thula explained, joining them after finishing with another patient. It's quite the distinction. Only 17 known species carry that classification. Victor seemed amused by this official categorization. On Earth, we just call it being human. Fire has been part of our story since the beginning. Dr. Zrixl completed Victor's treatment, applying the latest version of burn healing patches, a hybrid technology that combined traditional human burn treatment with advanced galactic medicine. These should heal faster than last time. We've improved the formula significantly. The benefits of cultural exchange, Victor said with appreciation. My grandfather would never have believed that getting burned in space would be safer than getting burned on Earth. After ensuring all the patients from the Ignales incident were stabilized, Dr. Zrixl invited Victor to visit the medical vessel's new research laboratory, a dedicated facility for studying cross-species trauma response and recovery. This laboratory exists largely because of you, Dr. Zrixl explained as they toured the state-of-the-art facility. Your case prompted us to question our assumptions about universal medical constants. If humans could naturally recover from what we considered fatal injuries, what other possibilities had we overlooked? The laboratory contained samples and data from hundreds of species, focusing on comparative healing processes and emergency medicine. One section was dedicated entirely to thermal injuries, with human skin samples displayed alongside those of other species known for heat tolerance. The research conducted here has already saved countless lives, Dr. Zrixl continued. We've developed new treatments for species previously thought to be fatally vulnerable to heat, based on our understanding of human recovery mechanisms. Victor examined the displays with genuine interest. I never imagined that getting caught in an engine fire would lead to all this. Science advances when our assumptions are challenged, Dr. Zrixl said. Your species challenged one of our most fundamental medical beliefs that fire damage was irreversible without technological intervention. Before Victor departed for his next assignment, Dr. Zrixl presented him with a small medical device, a personalized emergency treatment unit calibrated specifically to his physiology based on both his previous and current medical data. A thank you gift, Dr. Zrixl explained. It contains emergency treatments for the injuries your personnel file suggests you're most likely to encounter in your line of work. Victor accepted the device with genuine appreciation. I'll probably need it sooner rather than later. Risk assessment isn't my strong suit, according to my superiors. A common trait among humans, I've observed, Dr. Zrixl replied, his tone carrying the alien equivalent of fond exasperation. Your species' willingness to confront hazards directly rather than avoid them entirely is both your greatest strength and most concerning vulnerability. As they said their goodbyes, Victor paused at the medical bay doors. You know, on Earth, there's an old saying, the fire that burns also illuminates. I think our meeting proved that in more ways than one. Dr. Zrixl's translator took a moment to process the metaphor, but when it did, his skin flushed with understanding. Indeed. From injury came knowledge, and from knowledge, healing for many beyond yourself. In the years that followed, the medical exchange between humans and the galactic community expanded dramatically. The Mendax became the flagship for a new division of the Galactic Medical Authority, focused on adaptive emergency care treatments tailored to the unique evolutionary histories of different species, rather than assuming universal medical constants. Dr. Zrixl eventually authored the definitive galactic medical text on human physiology, with a particular focus on their unusual relationship with fire. The opening chapter began with the story of an engineer named Davies, whose injuries had challenged fundamental medical assumptions and opened new paths of understanding. The text became required reading for all medical professionals treating multi-species populations and led to a broader philosophical shift in galactic medicine, a recognition that what constituted fatal damage or miraculous recovery was often a matter of evolutionary perspective rather than absolute truth. 10 years after their first meeting, Dr. Zrixl received a communication from Earth, an invitation to speak at the opening of the Interspecies Medical Research Center in Geneva, the first Earth-based medical facility designed specifically for collaborative research between human and alien physicians. The invitation came from the center's founding director, Dr. Davies, who had traded his engineering tools for medical instruments after his experiences aboard the Mendax had inspired a midlife career change. As Dr. Zrixl prepared his address for the opening ceremony, he reflected on how a single patient, a human who refused to die from what should have been a fatal injury, had changed not just his understanding of medicine, but the entire approach of galactic healthcare toward human patients. What had once been considered impossible was now routine. Burns that would once have resulted in immediate stasis or palliative care for humans were now treated with the expectation of full recovery. All because one species had evolved alongside fire, using a universal hazard as a tool despite its dangers. In his address, Dr. Zrixl would emphasize the importance of challenging medical assumptions, of recognizing that evolution had created countless different solutions to survival across the galaxy, and that what appeared fatal through one species' perspective might be merely an inconvenience through another's. The fire that had burned Davies hadn't just illuminated the medical bay of the Mendax. All those years ago, it had illuminated a new path for interspecies medicine throughout the galaxy. From injury had come understanding, and from understanding, healing for countless patients across the stars. And it had all begun with a burned human engineer, who, against all galactic medical knowledge, had simply walked away from his burns and healed.